Ripple is being granted access to SEC documents related to Bitcoin and Ether as regulators decided they were commodities and not securities. And this as the SEC investigates Ripple Labs for issuing XRP as illegal securities. Our first guest, as you mentioned, Lawrence, is one of the original architects of the XRP ledger, the cryptocurrency used in Ripple Labs' payments network. Joining us now is Ripple Chief Technology Officer David Schwartz in California. Welcome, bright and early, David.
Thank you, Christine. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you, David. All right, so I was hoping you could comment perhaps briefly on this piece of news out this morning. Is Ripple hoping to find evidence that XRP is similar to Bitcoin and Ether and should not be considered a security?
Yeah, I think the primary argument that we're trying to make here is that the market considers them similar. We considered them similar. All of the evidence suggested that they were similar. And then the SEC just, comes out of nowhere and say, nope, they're completely different.
Mm-hmm. XRP is also having a down day today, but overall it's been on a strong winning streak, touching a 2-month price high in the wake of an altcoin rally, completely recouping losses from the SEC's lawsuit against Ripple Labs late last year, and then some. What's driving this XRP rally?
It's always hard to tell. You can always come up with an explanation for a piece of news after it happens. But, if it didn't happen and it was way down, I could come up with an explanation. So I'm very hesitant to give much confidence to sort of descriptions of what happened after the fact. I think there were some rumors about a Coinbase relisting that might have sort of triggered some upward movement. And I also think there was recently a hearing in the case where, as you mentioned, Ripple was granted access to SEC documents that might have impacted the price. But these are all just guesses, and there's really no way to know.
David, for some of the new people at home, by the way, I still want to keep calling you Joel Katz, but David, that's your Twitter handle, by the way. If people don't know, follow him on Twitter, Joel Katz. For the folks at home, there might be a lot of people who don't quite know the difference between XRP and Ripple. They use them interchangeably. So can you explain just briefly what the difference is for people who might not be familiar?
Sure. And this is something that's a little frustrating for me because, I've been trying to clarify this for years, and it's just very difficult to kind of get the clarification through. I think also there's just a lot of people who use the terms interchangeably. Ripple is a company. We're based in San Francisco. We have employees. We have shareholders. We have a CEO. I work for that company. I'm the chief technology officer. And it's a company like any other company. It's centralized. What the CEO says goes. There's a board of directors. It just works like any other company. The XRP is a digital asset. It's censorship resistant. It's publicly traded. It trades on the XRP ledger. Ripple does not own or control the XRP ledger in any way, just like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Those things are controlled by sort of de facto governance structures. They're not run by companies. Nobody can force those systems to behave in any particular way. So XRP is a digital asset and Ripple is a company.
So how did Ripple then get all the XRP that it has? It has about half the supply. So just how did that particular transaction happen?
The XRP ledger has a very different design from what Bitcoin and Ethereum have, and many other digital assets. Like in Bitcoin, the stakeholders are at least to some extent the miners, and the miners reap the rewards of the transaction fees. So very much like eBay sort of interposes themselves between buyers and sellers, and they make some money off the difference between what I'm willing to sell something for and what someone's willing to buy it for. Miners in Bitcoin and even in proof of stake systems, stakers sort of reap some profit on the fees that people are willing to pay for transactions. The XRP ledger doesn't work that way. It is not competitive. Nobody's competing to reap fees. And as a result, the fees are very, very low. The cost to perform a transaction on the XRP ledger is like 1,000th of a penny, and they complete in seconds. But because it's not a competitive system, it doesn't have any way to sort of award fees to a particular party. Because although if it had a way to award fees to particular parties, people would compete for those fees, and it would become competitive. So the way its design works is when the ledger first began operation, the 100 billion XRP, all that will ever exist, were sort of up for grabs. And lots of people grabbed XRP out of that system, but it just so happens that obviously, just like early miners mined, huge amounts of Bitcoin before the public knew about it or was using it, early XRP users grabbed large amounts of that pool of XRP. And so the people who developed the ledger wound up with, the vast majority of it, and then have been distributing it since then.
So now, can the Ripple network sustain other tokens other than just XRP? And or are there any plans for such?
The XRP ledger has support for what we call issued assets. They were initially used for stablecoins. It has a decentralized exchange. Amazingly, all of this was working in 2012. This was all early stuff, and most of this actually predates the creation of the company Ripple. So you can go on the ledger and you can represent things like dollars or Bitcoin or Ethereum, and then you can trade those assets in a few seconds, at this very low fee. There is a disadvantage, though, which is there has to be some counterparty. There has to be somebody who's creating that asset. So if you have dollars on the XRP ledger, there's somebody who holds the actual dollars. And if I decide to use a particular dollar asset on the XRP ledger, I'm trusting that counterparty, kind of like the way Tether works. Now, you can choose different counterparties, so we don't all have to agree on the same counterparty, but there has to be like some entity that's sort of operating that bridge. And so it's not quite as nice as having a native. It's not quite as nice as trading Ethereum on like the Ethereum blockchain, but on the Ethereum blockchain, your transaction fees will be at least $10 and your transaction times will be 10 plus minutes. Here you're talking about a thousandth of a penny in a few seconds. So it's like anything else. There's all trade-offs.
Hi, sorry, just had a brief computer issue. So just a question, as you said, the XRP and Ripple are very separate, and XRP is more decentralized. But in a worst case scenario in which some action by the SEC or some other regulatory action caused Ripple to have to cease operations or shut down, is there any reason for holders of XRP to be concerned about that?
I would say one reason to be concerned is just that it's hard to know what's going to happen. Like a good example is if you look at what happened when people in the Bitcoin community decided to make the block size bigger, you might have thought, well, they'll just make the block size bigger and nothing will happen and there's no reason for concern. Now, it all worked out okay, but it certainly there wasn't a lack of drama. There were controversies over how the ecosystem should respond. Should they have bigger blocks? Should they implement segregated witness? Should they fork? And the governance worked out. And the reason why I would say not to worry is because the market cap of these systems are in the billions of dollars, and there's nothing preventing people from working it out. So you have to think that people sort of acting in their own self-interest are not going to allow the ecosystem to die if there's a way to save it. In 2013, a long time ago, there was a bug in Bitcoin that caused the Bitcoin blockchain to break horribly, and it required the community to come together to fix it. But obviously, everybody who holds Bitcoin wants the system fixed, and there's no obstacle to fixing it, right? There's nothing that prevents you from, it's software, like you can always change software. And if everybody wants to fix the system and there are no real obstacles, you think that they'll find a way. And so whatever obstacles appear let's say in the XRP ledger ecosystem, either from the SEC actions or from other things, you have to think that because there's billions of dollars at stake, that people will be able to come together enough to fix it. But that's really all that's holding these systems together. The governing bodies don't have any legal authority to control these systems. It's just people want them to work. And so and it's possible for them to work. And so they find a way.
Hey, David, you brought up stablecoins before. What do you guys make of stablecoins in general and DeFi in general? And how come we're not seeing, let's say, XRP more used or used at all in DeFi as collateral, for instance?
This is actually an interesting thing for me because it's something that I struggle with a little bit, which is like the XRP ledger is fantastic for payments. It's very cheap. It's very fast. It can support foreign assets. And the question that I struggle with is that enough? If the XRP ledger is fantastic for payments and payments are, trillions of dollars, it's a massive market, is that enough? And I think you can make an argument that it's not. So the XRP ledger doesn't have any DeFi built into it. Bitcoin doesn't either. And there's disadvantages. You can't really add DeFi to the XRP ledger without making it slightly less good for payments, or possibly, depending on exactly because everything that a blockchain does adds cost.
They wrap Bitcoin and use it on DeFi. So why don't we see that with XRP? What do you suppose that's about?
Yeah, I don't know. I know there was a project to wrap XRP so that it could be used on the Ethereum blockchain, and that didn't make very much progress. I think part of it might sort of be the veggie burger with bacon problem, which is like people love veggie burgers and people love bacon on their burgers, but the people who love vegetable burgers are not the people who love bacon on their burgers. And it may be a similar thing, like there's people who love XRP and there's people who love DeFi, and there just may not be much intersection of those two. I really don't know, though.
Hey, David, Jed McCaleb was your predecessor as CTO. He was also a founding member of Ripple. Then he went on to create Stellar. What is the difference between the two? Because sometimes there are comparisons. Stellar is also building partnerships with Ukraine, Bermuda, and other governments to build CBDCs. What kind of developments are you guys doing? Because I know you are also venturing into CBDCs.
Well, I think one big difference is that Ripple as a company, sort of made a big bet in 2014 or 2015 on pursuing enterprise payments and XRP as a payment solution. And we directly worked very hard on allowing banks and financial institutions to be able to use XRP as a way to settle their payments in just a few seconds and as an alternative to the correspondent banking system. There's a lot of work involved in doing that. You have to provide complex software that integrates with banking systems. I think we've made a lot more progress on that. We have millions of transactions that are taking place, not on the XRP ledger, but actually these are transactions implemented on RippleNet by financial institutions, mostly, non-bank financial institutions, banks, payment companies, and so on. The technologies are very similar. Stellar started out by basically copying, what we had built for the XRP ledger, and Jed, founded the Stellar, and he was also one of the, the first person to be working on what we now call the XRP ledger. So there are similarities in terms of the technology, but there are a lot of differences in terms of the way they're perceived in the market and then the strategies that, different participants in the ecosystem are using. Like, if you look at the projects being built on the XRP ledger and you look at the projects being built on Stellar, they're different projects, even though the technologies are similar.